Well, actually, I was born in Turkey and raised in Turkey, and I completed my bachelor's degree in 2000, no, 1997, way back, and my master's degree in 2000, and my PhD in 2009. And I worked as a lecturer at two different universities. One was a state university, which I worked for 7 years. And after that, I moved to a private university and an independent one. And I worked there like 10 years. And in between and before my starting lecturing, I also had a company, an architectural firm, I continued it like 3 or 4 years, and it was just right after my graduation from architecture. And then I
Where was
spent
that
all my
based?
life. Sorry,
Where was that based exactly? In
they were all based in Istanbul, in
Istanbul.
Turkey, except the state university was in Antalya, in the southern part of the country. The department in Akdeniz University in Antalya was interior design, interior and environmental design. And then when I moved to Istanbul back, um, the department was the Department of Architecture, where I lectured. And I had various administrative roles at the university, including being the head of the department, head of the graduate degrees and postgraduate degrees. And also I was the head of the international office. So I think I start networking since then,
Right.
personally and academically as well.
Mm.
Uh, and my master's thesis, and both my master's and PhD thesis are about housing. So I think I can name myself as an housing expert, mostly housing policy and urbanization policy. My master's thesis was entitled Production, Organization, and Administration Modeling of Housing Estates in Mostar. And my PhD thesis was the evaluation of regeneration process of residential areas in the case study City Mostar. So they were
Mostar is in where is that exactly?
in Bosnia Herzegovina.
Ah, yes.
Maybe you may remember it with the bridge, with its Mostar Bridge, famous,
Ah, I do. Yeah,
restored
I was
by
trying
UN,
to locate it.
UNESCO, yes,
Yeah.
and World Monuments Fund collaboration. So I was by that time I was working with Agakan Trust for Culture. So all my theses are actually in Mostar because I was also working on the project Mostar 2004 back in time,
Oh, great. So
like 20 years ago.
yeah, you've mentioned a sort of a trajectory from Istanbul to Mostar, and now you're sitting in London, I believe, or
Yes,
somewhere in the
yes.
UK. And so, could you tell me more about how the connection to Mostar developed with being a Turk and Bosnia Herzegovina? That's
Well,
fascinating.
actually, because I was working at Aga Khan Trust for Culture's Istanbul office, well, when I just started working, um, the project Mostar 2004 was, um, um, I mean, it had started, but it was recently started. So I kind of, I think, worked almost from the beginning, not exactly, but we can say approximate. And so, like 4 years, 3, 4 years, I continued to work in Mostar in that project. So I was working in Istanbul, but we had several trips to Mostar, obviously. And there had been workshops and seminars actualized during that time. It was right after the Yugoslavian civil war, as you may remember. And
What year was that? That was 90, no, 80, the
it's,
Civil
I
War.
mean, when I first went there, like in 1996, um,
Ah,
uh, beginning of 1997, kind of, it was just finished. The NATO military, the military, yeah, was there, as I'm recalling in the correct way. It's been a while now. So yeah, there in the project we restored more than 100 buildings, drove their restoration and restitution projects, and it was really a very fruitful, I think, for me, because I really learned a lot from that project. And meanwhile, Aga Khan Trust for Culture supported and sponsored my um, master's thesis. And after that, I think when I started to when I started my PhD. Actually, I wanted to turn back to Mostar because there is a gap between two. I started my PhD in 2005. So, and I was graduated from master's degree in 2000. So there is 5 years gap between my PhD and master's thesis. And so I was very curious about what happened since, because all the legal enforcement and all the laws were changing, like monthly, sometimes like yearly, because they were trying to settle down the new conditions of the country after the war. So I wanted to turn back and check what happened since my master's degree. And so I connected back again to Mostar after some years. And representatives from the Aga Khan Trust for Culture were very helpful again. And I had colleagues and professors who were Bosnian and working on the project. And by that time started to living back in Mostar partially. So they helped me a lot with the information I needed. And among that, I was trying to settle down and design a model for Mostar's regenerate. I mean, mostly about the regeneration project, but in detail, of course, a model for Mostar, how they would regenerate. Because even in 2019, there were sites, streets, and places within the city which weren't not regenerated yet. And so it was, I think, it was a very good experience for me being in Mostar, because it's a very close culture to Turkish population, actually.
I was going to ask about the cultural connections.
Yeah,
So
I
the Aga
mean,
Khan Trust is like interested in, especially in the Islamic world. So I imagine Turkey and Bosnia Herzegovina have some connection culturally through Aga Khan. But maybe are there other connections, language, culture, that kind of thing?
yeah, this is 100% true. But the thing is that I think the connection about this project specifically was because Professor Amr Pasic was living in Turkey and working at Yıldız Technical University, which I completed all my education in Turkey. So I knew him from the university, and he was a Bosnian, ran out because of the war, obviously, and came to Turkey. But he was trying to do projects back in his country. So mm, so I think that was the real connection of that happened. Then after, I think Passage probably is working for e-commerce also. So he has several connections within the Islamic countries. So he was combining World Monuments Fund, Aga Khan Trust for Culture, and the university and Mostar municipality, because during my thesis, I went several times for research and for interviews. All the time, I could easily reach every part of the state, actually, to talk to people, to get the knowledge, because everywhere were bombed. It was very hard to find the maps and information, written books, etc. And by that time, online documentation was not this far, as you
Yeah.
may recall. So everything was written, and when they bomb it, it's all just gone. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for me,
So that was
actually.
Yildiz University
Yes, it
in
was Yıldız
Istanbul as
University.
well. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes, that's right.
was ICOMOS active in that region, or because I think of that as a very international organization?
Yes, it is actually, but they are mostly doing, I think, restoration and historical works in the Islamic area,
Mm.
or with that culture. Yeah, by that time, I think I was very connected, but in years, I'm really not sure what happened, because my area of expertise is housing mostly. So
Mm.
I in this sense, I don't divide it historic or recently built, because it is the city's problem, actually, mostly housing. So I think after that project and after my thesis, I mostly turned back to my area and tried to specialize in it. So I think I had written more articles, did more researches in my area, rather than working on restoration projects and such that. But still, I sometimes think as a future project that maybe I can one day again back to Mostar and see what happened there, especially in the sense of the housing and housing policy, because my thesis were all about that. Um, who knows?
That's kind of what I want. Where I wanted to go next would be: do you think there would be a future, a possibility in future for space studies to do something in Mostar with, say, something like Aga Khan, ICOMOS, Yildiz University? What's the connection between space studies and that other life in Yildiz with the
Well,
youngster?
actually, it's a very good question. I've
Yeah.
never thought of,
Mm.
I mean, it would be lovely,
Mm.
I mean, obviously, to
Yeah.
turn back and look at Mostar, and also have connections with e-commerce and World Monuments Fund and Aga Khan Trust for Culture and people in Mostar as well, academics. Well, it's an organization to be done.
Mm.
So I mean, it needs work and effort to spend on it. So yeah, it's a few project. So
It sounds like Space Studies has been busy giving other people platforms rather than the Mostar housing project of your own. So because you've been,
um,
yeah, helping with other universities in Turkey and working with people all over the world with space
well,
studies.
Gregory, actually, space studies has a lot to do, really.
Hmm.
And since I established it, there's been a lot going on. So it's
So
really
maybe
hard for me to
let's just
catch up.
yeah, sure. Would you like to tell the story of how space studies began? Sort of thinking of, you've just explained about your own master's and PhD and based in Mostar, and then how did space studies come out of all of that?
Well, in between space studies and Mostar, I worked as a lecturer and
Right.
being an academic for years, like 17, 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think all the way I was very uncomfortable with the bureaucracy we had. I think it's all same in every country. I'm not just criticizing Turkey, um,
Yeah.
but in all countries there is this bureaucracy, especially at the universities, at the research institutes. So you need to fill several forms, you need to talk to several people if you want to do something, which is really exhausting, actually,
Yeah.
because you are losing yourself in between bureaucratical procedures, rather than losing yourself within your research.
Mm-hmm.
So it was making me very uncomfortable all the way. And
Can I
and
mean I'll come back to it, but I was just going to say, you said you were a lecturer, so you were a tenured academic, but you also said that you were working as an architect. So is there a what's the split in Turkey in terms of being a practicing architect and an academic? Is there a split there, or is it
Yes,
very
there is.
yeah?
Actually, I worked as an architect for the first 4 years after my graduation. Then, when I wanted to be a lecturer, when I chose, I think, to be an academic, I learned that you can't be an architect and an academic at a state university at the same time.
Yeah, this
So,
is a very interesting question. We'll come back to this
yeah.
because this is very much
Um,
my experience too. So,
yeah. So, because you can't do that, and you can't own a company when you're a state employee,
mhm.
and earn
In
income.
Turkey anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, in Turkey,
Hmm.
I had to shut down my architectural office.
Mm.
So, it was sacrificed really to be an academic. But I didn't regret. I think. I mean, I would prefer to work as an architect as well, while lecturing and researching, because I had studio classes, and we were graduating architects, but we weren't be able to work as an architect, which is a bit paradoxical, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. It definitely is. It definitely.
So,
Um,
so that
so
was,
you kind of you say because of the Turkish system, because of the state funded university, you have to put the private practice to the side. You
yeah.
can't be seen to be running something even at night time. You have to be dedicated to being a career academic, and that means you get a full time salary as a career academic. But then you have to fill in a lot of forms in order to get any funding to do anything.
Yes, that's right. So I think, yeah, back in Turkey, I still haven't moved my stuff here totally. Um, I have a big library at home, which I sponsored it by myself, and also. I think most of the things I have done, either I was funded by someone else, which I found, I created the funding, or I did from my salary and income from the university. So, but still, I don't regret, because it was another experience, I think.
Yeah.
And during the way, I had several administrative roles, and so I had written business plans, strategic plans for the universities I worked. So at one point, I said, okay, I want to work and research somewhere where there will be less bureaucracy. Probably there would be, I knew, because you can't just tore apart all of it. It's impossible. You need to keep recording anyway,
Mm.
but make it as light as possible, and to do research, it should be easier. So my journey to London started with this idea, I think. Then I started talking to some colleagues, and I was trying to create a platform which will serve um, um, to serve mostly professional professionally to academics, but also to students and also the professionals of the field, and not only architecture and urban design, but all related areas that may have interdisciplinary studies with architecture and urban design. So then before I came to London, moved to London, I established the company
Mm.
as an independent academic platform. So it has two sides. So the first side is that it will be a bridge throughout space and architecture with the community, with the professions, but the professionals interdisciplinary, not only with architects and urban designers, but also sociologists, psychologists, philosophy, history, education, ecology, in any kind of actually subject that can be studied with architecture interdisciplinary. So So I established the platform. And then the second step was that, okay, we are serving to academics and students, and it is a platform where academics can develop their careers, because we have enough tools to develop their careers using the platform. But why not they generate income whilst producing and sharing knowledge with each other and with the public? So then those layers became like academics, students, anyone who would like to learn something, which means public, society, and the professions themselves, all of them actually. So that was the idea. So all my experience, I think, brought me here to London, and it was specifically London because um, it is it is a very architecturally historic city, and it's a metropole, and anyone who came here, who visit London because of us, because of the work we do, will also benefit from the city itself, because city teaches a lot as well as what they do in terms of their researches. So after I established the company, we started with first 3 conferences ever we had in 2018. So I set up the company in 2017, the beginning of June, and the first conference were in April 2018. And maybe you can know, it's in Covent Garden. There were brown courtrooms, very historic courtrooms there. So we held the conference there. The first conference, it was on sustainable architecture, planning, and urban design, which will be the 5th one this year, actually, in April. So we started with the conferences, and we saw that people come and share their research, discuss them on our platform. And then we had 2 more. In the next year, we had 6. The next year, we had 10. Last year, we had 15 conferences. And this year, and we intend not to increase anymore the conference numbers, because we pretty much, I think, touch every subject that may be interdisciplinary. And we started a research project. Actually, we had several, but ongoing one, the funded one, is one for now. And we have publication. All conference proceedings have been published, except 2021's. We are on it because of this COVID and the cases we had as well. We couldn't publish it. We will. And we are trying to launch our journal. It's a project. It started just before the pandemic. With the pandemic, we went on to furlough scheme, so we couldn't continue it. But we have all the articles accepted from 2020 and 2021. So we will publish 2 volumes at once, I think. And so
basically, it's an independent academic research conferencing platform. Let's say it's not primarily for publishing, but publishing comes along with the conferencing. So you could start up a publisher in London, and you could say, I want to publish things about space, but you set up a company to do conferencing, which would lead to publication. So you're not setting it up as a publisher in the sense of text publishing. The people are bringing the ideas to the conference, and it's a meeting place for ideas, I suppose. And it's not attached to any particular organization?
No, it is not attached to any particular organization. But the thing is that it's not, it wasn't established to organize conferences. It was
Right.
established to be a platform, and that
Okay.
platform would serve to academics.
I see.
So we just put all the tools step by step. So it started with the conferences to make network and invite people. But But from the beginning, on its business plan, it was kind of a center, and its platform. It had tools. So conferences are one of them. Publication. We will start publishing monograms this year, and also we will open call for books as well. So every department, it has like events, because it's not just conferences. We had exhibition, we had workshops in the past, but because of the pandemic, we had to stop all of them. And so events just was one tool that academics would use. The other was publishing. The other is proofreading services. The other is research. They can either propose their researches. We can look funding for them, so that we can do it collaboratively, or we can, within our company, we can start researches and call for help from the academics as well. And so it's not established to organize conferences, but it was established to be a platform. And also for the future, it has a library in its plan, so that we will have an online and on-site library for architectural and urban design and related interdisciplinary areas, so that our members can use freely. And the journals, so publication and all the tools like proofreading services, art making, or plagiarism checks, everything, anything an academic needs to further their career will be placed in the platform. So while they are developing their careers, they can also generate income by using the tools. For example, they can make a workshop and they can sell it through our company, and we can advertise it for them, because we have networks, because we are working with several different countries, several different academics from different universities. So they will use our network and our tools, and they will develop their careers. And if they want, they can generate income as well. But it's all up to them, actually, how they use the tools.
Okay, I mean, I think that's clarified that it's not just about conferencing, and it's not just a website like academia, and it's not just a research support organization like Vitae. So it sits somewhere. It had space and architecture and urbanism at the core, but it's become a bit broader than that, and it would support people who want to develop careers in let's say scholarship and research, and it's not purely commercial research. So I mean, I guess there are organizations that do commercial research like Space Syntax, and people where they're doing commercial research through academia, through links with universities and so on. But I was just trying to see how it fits. But as a case study, would you like to tell us a little bit about the Space in Pandemic workshop, how that fits into the research project and how it fits into space studies.co.uk?
Yeah, actually, it is a link between Turkey and we established, and it's a research project, ongoing research project, established between Space Studies and Işık University, Department of Architecture. And
so the project we're talking about is called Space in Pandemic, or spaceinpandemic.com, I guess, is the website.
Yeah, it's the address. And the full name of the research project is Space in Pandemic, the use of indoor and outdoor space during the lockdown in pandemic. So actually, in that project, we are trying to examine the transformation of the space during the pandemic, in terms of users' perceptions and relations with each other. Because, as you know, we were stuck in a very limited area, and we started to do all of our activities at home. So in housing history, we start telling students while lecturing that once upon a time, working at home was also very normal, because it was
Mm-hmm.
in it, because the functions of the house wasn't separated in is personal or it's professional. There was no such thing. And especially in city centers by that
Mm-hmm.
time, uh, most of the manufacturers and producers were the ground floor were for the selling and producing the products, and upper floor was for the living and sleeping. And also there were no separation between kitchen, bathroom. There were just rooms there, and you were using those rooms for your own needs, actually.
Mm.
And in time and in modernization, and especially after the Industrial Revolution, it changed. And so we separated all the functions in our lives, and everything is more professional, maybe. So we go to work, our houses are totally private area. They are not public. And we have
Mm.
gardens, balconies, semi-public, and then we have public areas as well. But with the
Mm.
pandemic, all the definitions were mixed. So
Yeah.
our houses became semi-public, because it's seen on Zoom or on any
Yeah.
online platform. So it is so you host people in your house. So we really wanted to search how this affected people's lives, because everything happened in at home. And if you're not living alone, uh, then the complicatedness starts, I think, at that point, because you need to share the living room at work time, at school time, and so on. And you need to do your sports there, you need to do your art there, you need to attend an exhibition there. Everything happens in the same room. So we wanted to see what challenges they had in different countries, how they were affected in terms of their lives and their usage of their space. So we had written the research project, and it had passed to and funded by Işık University,
Mm.
actually. So we made a collaboration and workshops, and we had some few seminars we had held, and those seminars were mostly about pandemics and the researches about the pandemics. We tried to give place to them, and then we started doing our workshops. And in our workshop we give like a small seminar, what happened, just to remind the students. And we do the workshops to mostly art and design students generally,
Mm.
because um, um, they will have we think it will be easier for them to analyze what they had lived in terms of space they shared with others, or if they were alone, how did they use it in any way. So the research project fits in the space studies in project totally as a
Mm.
project. Like we will always have research project in the future as well. So it's a funded project, and workshops is part of it, because we ask people, um, both on a survey and also architecturally, we want them to draw or to collage or whatever, how they want to express how they use their space, and what are their future visions if any other event occurs like this, activity occurs like this in the future. So from those workshops, um, we gained a lot of experience and insight, actually, what happened in other countries.
Mm.
And because of the attendees were students mostly, most of them. There are some graduates as well, but like 90% was students. So how they seen, and we also had several um, conversations with them, how they dealt with an online education, and what they learned, what they gained, was it comfortable. So we also ask other questions related to their lives to understand how they were spending their life in their homes, spent their lives in their homes during the pandemic. So it is all fit in, I think, if it makes sense.
Yeah, what do you think that Ishik University gains from this? So Ishik University invested in a foreign agency, a Turkish agency in London to help it to develop this research program. And then what will Ishik University get from that? Will it have publications? Will it get findings? Say, for example, you were talking about what all the students thought of their online education. It's a big topic where I teach as well. What will Ishik University do with that information now that it's asked the students all over what they thought of the online teaching during the pandemic?
Well, actually, they funded a project, but the project was not our project only. So we
Mm,
had all the way studied the project with my colleagues at Işık University.
mm,
So we wrote the project together. So it's not my project or space studies project specifically,
mm,
but it is a research project collaboratively written, designed, and conducted actually.
mm,
So it didn't just funded space studies project. It funded a
mm.
project collaborative with an international platform actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And in April, at our first conference, we will be exhibiting the works of the workshop in
Mm,
London at the
mm-hmm,
conference. So, and also we will publish these workshops, and because at our workshops we invited mostly not the students specifically, but we invited the lecturers and tutors. So they
mm,
brought their students, so they know their students and they know their country. So they will make a further research. That's what we expect from them actually, so that we can write the book all together in
mm,
chapters, so that we will we will have different perspectives from different countries for the same aspect actually. So, and we will
mm,
publish it as space studies with an UK ISBN, which will be catalogued in British Library,
mm,
and because all our books, because when you publish in UK ISBN, it is catalogued in British Library. You need to send it. It's obligatory. And also you send other agencies, library agencies, and they send to Cambridge University, Ireland National Library, Scotland National Library. So it goes all over the UK actually, and they are all very high. They have high reputation in terms of their libraries. So Işık University gain an international. So they start to touch the international era actually throughout
mm.
space studies,
Yeah,
and their academics also gain benefit, I think, from this, so that they are in the network of space studies now, because our network is really worldwide.
very good. Yeah, so I'm trying to imagine what it would look like for another research group or another university to work with space studies. So if it was a London or another country, say an African country, if they wanted to approach space studies to work with you, how would they do that?
Well, actually, we have email addresses on our website,
Yeah.
and they can just email us about their project proposal, and their what they expect to achieve from that project. Just a small email,
Mm,
like one or two paragraphs. Then we will give an appointment, and we try to speak face to face. But if it is international, if it's not in London, then we can make it on Zoom and on any actually online platform, so that we start like that actually. So for example, we have an ongoing relation with an Australian company. It's an housing alliance company actually, and they are trying to produce housing in Africa and in different countries of Africa. So the idea changes time to time. So they are looking on. So we are their partner in terms of research. So we will research about the housing in the area and what kind of model, with what kind of model they should produce the houses, and in terms of economically and psychologically, what kind of houses the people need there. And according to the results of the research, they will be producing the houses. And we will be outlining the model for them, the economic model as well. Will they sell it? Will they rent it? Will they manage it? So how will it happen? So it will come out, the results will come out from the research. But it is very on the early stages still, because I mean, it's ongoing like 2 years, but still, because it's a huge investment, because they are talking about thousands of houses to be built in.
Which country would it be? Is it decided which country?
Well, it changes time to time, but Zambia, Ghana, so they couldn't decide totally, but they have all connections because the company there has partners from Ghana, Zambia, and different parts of Africa. And so, for example, this is our one of our future projects. I hope if they can be funded, of course, because it will be funded all total, not the research part, all the project. If it is funded, then that means that they have money for the research to fund us as well. And also we have some PhD new how can I say it in English? I don't know. Very recent graduates from PhD
Oh yes, yeah.
who would like to do research. So I had a few. So they are trying to write down some research projects. They will
So
be,
postdoctorate applications for postdoctoral study, research programs, or
yeah,
funding for postdoctoral research, something like that.
yes, but because we don't have that much funds actually to fund people for postdoctorate, actually we will be like collaborating for the academics as well
Yeah.
personally, so that we will look funding for their research. And because we have a network, we know people who work in those areas. They may have a research list so that they can research together. It's an option for them as well, but they can conduct the uh, research as the lead researchers. So we have such projects, and we have another type of academics who are now working on some courses that will be sold out via space studies, like literature review, critical thinking, and an academic is working on it. So we will be starting to trials, starting to do.
Live courses or online?
Well, actually, we will announce them on three ways. One of them will be totally online. One of them will be online, plus there will be tutoring sessions in it. And the third one will give additional tutoring sessions specifically for the research projects or whatever they do, and in terms of the course actually. So there will be 3 points of sales actually. So they will be online and tutoring, and also further support, like further support. So they will have 3 versions the same course. We'll see. We are working on it still.
Good.
Uh,
And the only other thing to say was because I was tempted or tantalized by the idea of a face-to-face meeting, and I might even be able to meet you face-to-face for the first
yeah.
time. And you mentioned some buildings in Covent Garden where you did that before. Do you have any idea what this exhibition would look like this year coming up in springtime?
Well,
A
actually,
face-to-face exhibition. I presume you mean
yes,
a real,
yes, the
yeah.
conference will be face to face and the
Mm-hmm.
exhibition will be face to face. Actually,
Mm.
we will try to do it kind of hybrid because, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if someone can't come and want to attend virtually, then they can attend virtually as well. So it will be online and on site at the same time. We will try to make it like this. And we I can announce now because I got the confirmation just on Friday evening time, so we couldn't find time to announce it. The conferences will be at Docksland Academy, which is in Canary Wharf.
Great.
And we had held some of our conferences in the past, but this time they were willing to be our venue sponsor. So it's a really huge progress because
Oh, great.
it is good, yes. And so we will be exhibiting the works in the workshop there and at the conference, because there will be four conferences at the same day and also plus the exhibition. Now we are trying to work on the exhibition posters, images, and there will be some separate invitations for the exhibition as well. And we'll see. I mean, we are very
Great.
excited because, pandemic period was everything was online, which we never intended to do. As you had said, there are platforms like academia and ResearchGate, they are online. It's not what we want.
Mm.
Our vision was an on-site center. Everyone can go there, research there, share their findings, be part of it for a while if they like, or be part of it totally, give courses there, um, do what they need for their careers while they're generating income, but everything on site. People touch each other, drink coffee together. So that was the idea.
Yeah.
And I hope we will go there. But before we start with the on site conferences as the beginning of this
Yeah.
era, I hope it finished totally this pandemic.
Well, thank you very much. So I've been talking to Pinar Engincan, who's academic and a scholar based in London, UK. Her platform is spacestudies.co.uk. You can see more about it there. Thank you very much for introducing yourself and telling about your journey from Istanbul via Bosnia Herzegovina to London and the international platform of space studies. And thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.
Well, actually, I thank you for the opportunity to explain myself and express what we had done so far. It was really fantastic. Thank you for the invitation and your
Okay,
time.
you're very welcome. And thank you, and I'll see you very soon.
See you soon.
Okay, okay, bye bye.
Bye.